One.
Sarah Thorn is a highly accomplished healthcare professional with nearly 2 decades of dedicated experience in facilities management and project delivery. Since 2004, Sarah has made significant contributions to the Lower Mainland in British Columbia health authorities, including Vancouver Coastal Health and Fraser Health, as part of their facilities management capital projects group. These organizations are smoking busy building facilities on the West Coast here. It's pretty much the same in a few of the other provinces as well. But wow, construction is plowing forward. She is widely recognized for her expertise in overseeing multiple acute care projects, currently spearheading the long-term care project in Delta, BC, reaffirming her commitment to enhancing healthcare infrastructure. Sarah is an executive board member with the Canadian Healthcare Engineering Society, that would be CHES, the acronym, and currently serves as the CHES BC chapter chair. She also serves as a dedicated committee member for the Canadian Standards Association, CSA, another well-known organization out there, where she plays an integral role in shaping the latest CSA Z 317.13 infection control standard. Sarah, welcome to the call. We're excited to hear what you have to say. Oh, and I should say,
Thank you.
Sarah, before we got on, said ask questions through the process. This is very organic. She's very sort of just off the cuff and on the fly. So if you have something that pops into your mind, ask away. Sarah, sorry.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Chris and Lee, who's helped organize this, and the NFCA for having me here today. Today, I want to talk about flooring in healthcare facilities. It's a big topic. There's lots to cover. Today, we're going to talk about collaboration and quality assurance. So as I was putting this slide deck together, I started to think about how much foot traffic, how many things, equipment, wheels, everything, how much use and protection our flooring require. That kind of set me off in the presentation today with the direction. So as Chris noted, my name is Sarah Thorn. I'm a manager of planning and projects at Facilities Management and Fraser Health. We're a huge health authority in British Columbia, Canada, a sister health authority to Vancouver Coastal Health, Providence, and PHSA. I want to start out with a land acknowledgement. I'm so grateful I live and work and enjoy in the community of Maple Ridge, located on the traditional territory of the Katzie First Nation and Kwantlen First Nations. I want to recognize the past harms, the present work that we're doing for future reconciliation that's required. And just to note that archaeology data shows that their ancestors have been stewards of our land, this land, for over 10,000 years. And I just wanted to point out, for those who may not know my hometown, Maple Ridge, it's highlighted in yellow, in the Lower Mainland, and I work typically in Surrey, BC. I wanted to talk a little bit about project management in the health authority. A lot of people don't necessarily may understand what we're responsible for, and so I just want to kind of pause and reflect a little bit and tell you guys what we do. So project managers are responsible for overseeing and supporting the planning, design, and/or implementation of assigned facility projects across Fraser Health. These include project planning, project management, overseeing communications, managing contracts, and also procurement processes. We oversee assigned staff and provide leadership by working with our teams, our key partners, contractors, consultants, vendors, suppliers, you name it, as needed on project by project basis. Often we stay with the project from concept to completion, plus 1-year warranty review, and stick with the project if there's any concerns or ongoing issues. For our healthcare facilities, flooring is like a skin. That's kind of how I think about it. If you think of human anatomy, our systems and structure of the bones, the plumbing, but our floors are really like a skin. They really act like a barrier and also provide immense protection through the life of their life cycle. And so again, going back to those spaces in our healthcare, from lobbies, I think of the entranceways that get beat up pretty good all day, all the way into our ORs that see a lot of drips, contaminations, bloods, fluids. They take a lot of abuse and use all day. And I just want to really note, and this is my infection control background, healthcare flooring failures really do cause adverse health environments. And so at the end of the day, we want our skin, our barriers well protected, free from any design flaws, cracks, gaps, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. So when we start talking about any flooring replacement, flooring specification, new floors, new builds, we really talk about healthcare flooring categories. And so I kind of wanted to get a bit of a chuckle out of this, and I'm sure you guys have seen this. We don't always get to dabble in brand new floors, in brand new builds. So we have our older flooring, as I call it. And again, those vintages are all different depending on what healthcare facility you're in. My guess is you guys have seen a lot of this. I call it layered history. Often what we'll find is sheet goods buried over potentially asbestos containing flooring material. So often we've got some layered history there. It's not just the first layer that we're worried about. Contamination. We can have anything from, materials that have bled through them, stuff we can't get out. I've even seen duct tape on some of the flooring to try and keep it together. That's where we go into that beyond repair. When you're patching over patching or welding and welds, and at the end of the day, I'm sure you guys have seen some of these big ulcers, I'll call it, in our flooring systems. Patches over patches, you'll start to see we do maintain those the 10% sheet goods that we get at the end of the day, or other than sheet goods. We try and keep those up and repaired, but over the life of a project or a building, you'll start to see that the patches no longer match the original flooring system. So again, I'm having to get different dyed lots that sometimes don't show up as well as we'd hope. And then how they're holding up overall. I think most can say they've seen the wear and tear in our buildings, other buildings, and at the end of the day, some areas hold up better than others. New build, new floor, we get really excited about that. It's our chance to put back in a really great product that will hopefully carry the life of the building, and also the protection, let's just say flash coves, where maybe some of our buildings didn't have that before. And then I always bring up carpet, and I say, dare I say carpet in healthcare, because it is contentious. At the end of the day, we do use carpet in some of our areas. One area I can think of is our hospices, and others that really want to be home-like. And no doubt we'll be talking about home-like, potentially carpet in our long-term care facilities. So my infection control background, I don't necessarily get excited about carpet. And really the big reason why is health authorities don't necessarily have the right operational care set up in place to keep those carpets clean, fresh, free of debris. So I see some head nods there. For those who may be aware of some of our cleaning contracts, now we've brought them back in BC. I don't know if others are doing it, but they're literally not set up to do good carpet cleaning, say overnight, and it's not happening day in and day out. So that's where you'll see those classic coffee stains. And usually we're using carpet tiles so we can pull a tile, but at the end of the day, that's where I say, dare I say carpet in healthcare, we use it very selectively and very thoughtfully. Any comments or questions around that? I saw some head nods, so just pause. No, right on. Feel free to comment as I go through. Often we want to start off the project with clear requirements. I used our little Dilbert over here, and it's quite often, I'll design the system as soon as you give me the user requirements. We don't say this enough. Often we'll jump in for head first, say, yep, we know what you need, we know where you need it. And this is where sometimes we can get ourselves into trouble. So what I say is, what do you need from the flooring? What is it that you're doing in the space? What do you need it to do? And I'll get into a little discussion about why that's important. I want to confirm all those requirements and use cases. Are you using the same flooring system across every space in your new build? Probably not. Could be, but there might be some differences. Know what works well and what doesn't. use your lessons learned. There's nothing more frustrating than us learning from history a lot of things we shouldn't do, and then we step in and we repeat those same historical whoopsies. And so really using your lessons learned and leaning in on your site representations to make sure, did they purchase a flooring system that didn't work well for them, or did they put it in the wrong place? Ensure key partners specify their needs. This is really important. When I say key partners, I'll think of environmental services, workplace health, and so often there are areas where they'll need to lean in on what their use case is.
Sarah,
And
let
match.
me
Oh, go
ask you a
ahead.
quick question here. So let's say a hospital gets built and flooring is chosen and the system goes into place, and it's a great product and it's a great result. Everybody's happy. And then the next hospital down the road, maybe in the next municipality, but has the exact same requirement and needs, yet goes with a different system, different product. Maybe at some risk that that other product might not work out. Why do we see so many different options all doing the same thing?
Oh, the human factor. They come into play. So it could be that our maintenance managers or the owner's rep of that building want to try something new. Or I'll give you an example. I accidentally, and this is my own lessons learned, color determination. So I used a light gray, I'll call it, in a extremely busy lobby. So the flooring product held up, but the scratching that we saw was immense. And again, this was a lobby that had an outpatient clinic in it all day, every day, and people were coming in with walkers, wheelchairs, you name it. Every piece of equipment they were bringing in essentially dragged on the floor. And they came out from a very busy parkade through the winter. I know Vancouver, yes, we do have winter, everybody, and we do get a little snow. So we use salts and sands. I found that the more product that they used out in the parking lot was drug into that lobby, didn't stop at, say, the environmental rugs, the first line of defense. And we just got scratching and scraping. Could have been the way the light hit it. It was no different product than we'd used before, different color. So that could be it was too light for the area. And then the lighting just picked it all up. So again, the flooring worked well. It's just unfortunately we could see all the little scrapes and doodads, and we don't wax flooring anymore in healthcare. I'm not sure if people are aware of that in BC. I can't speak for everybody else, but we no longer use wax products on our sheet goods.
You said something. You said that you chose that flooring, that gray flooring, or did you?
Not me personally. Like I led the group through it, so the site admin chose it. They loved the color; it was beautiful. But unfortunately, just for the busyness of the area, the fact that we don't wax. The facts that I guess probably it was brand new and the area around it wasn't all brand new, so it stuck out really well. And so there is still contention of whether or not the lot we got was maybe a bit too soft or whatnot, why the scraping was noticeably more than other places. But I do believe the color might have had a little bit to do with it.
So the process would be you tell the consultant, this is what we want, this is for the, this is what we want the product to do, or this is the environment it's going into, and then they do the research, find out what's the best thing. Maybe it's based on their history with a particular product, and then recommend it to you. Then you maybe you've got three options, I guess, and you choose one of those. Is that kind of
That's correct? So it could be either from an architect group who's had a successful installation previous and they'd give you a recommendation. It could be from the maintenance manager, the site owner, who says, please don't bring in, 3 more flooring types. I'd like to stick with standardization. And then some of it can come from a project manager who says, oh, this is what I used on the last project. I'd like you to use this. So there could be different reasons why people bring it to the table. And then when I get into flooring solution to the requirement, the dreaded safety floors come into play. And so one of the challenges I have with our environmental services is I can get a good gridded safety floor, for a wet area. However, it's really safe for the staff, but the cleaning requirement for it changes. And so you guys might have a chuckle at me. It's my own ignorance. So I put in a really good safety non-slip floor in our MDR department recently. But housekeeping came back and said, like, it tears up every mop I have. And so it didn't dawn on me. And again, now lessons learned, I thought, okay, now in advance, I have to talk to them about the equipment that they have available. And so we had to bring in the specialists. They walked us through, and they had to use different pads on their equipment, different sources. So again, just being thoughtful about everything from who's going to spec it, how it's used, who takes care of it, what the lifelong requirements are. It can be challenging to get it all right. And sometimes, like I said, people bring in their own thoughts from previous projects. And so if they are going to do that, you really have to go back and do your homework, find out, did it really work? Or is this just a product line they'd like to replicate? And so doing your check-ins, lessons learned is really important.
Yeah, good.
Okay. We want to produce clear project specifications. And so that even starts at, again, like I said, performance. What quality of flooring. Right now, we're seeing a lot of rubber flooring going into our ORs. We're getting a lot of feedback from staff with fatigued feet and legs that it's made a difference. So again, I don't know if that's more just a placebo effect, because we've told them we've gotten them really great flooring and it's rubbery, or if it's actually making a difference. But it'll be interesting to see long term how that holds up. And so again, I'm not an expert between how cushiony the rubber floor is compared to others, but we are hearing some really good feedback. So we would go into the quality, the types of flooring that's available to folks, again, where you would put that, how it's used, how it would hold up, requirements of taking care of it, what locations that would go in. Again, some people want flooring or carpet tile in a boardroom, as an example, for acoustics. So again, that comes into play, because there's nothing more annoying. And if you guys have been in boardrooms that, are echoey, that doesn't help. Like I said, long-term care, hospice, they'd like home-like requirements. So again, we would entertain carpet tile, for example. Any wet spaces, they've got to be safety driven. We can't have people falling. And as you know, people are moving around our healthcare quite quickly. So you just have to be really thoughtful on what they're up against. And then again, cleaning process considerations are coming into play, especially with all the different cleaning products we're seeing in healthcare, especially, those high infection control products. My guess is can be quite hard on flooring. I know that at some point it was stripping varathane off of some of our wood products. And so to me, that alludes, if our hand cleaner or hand wipes are that strong, we also have to watch all our other materials. But I know that the flooring manufacturers are on top of those requirements. I always think about this, all the hard work in my floor install failed. This is kind of one of my favorite sections, because I always say it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And so I always ask my colleagues, the project management staff I oversee, did you do something to mitigate the risk? So I always say, you can always go down the same adage, cut, paste, review, and then I say, hope for the best method. Because if you're not doing anything differently, you're really just hoping that somebody else out there is. Where I would like to do more of a thoughtful plan in place. And so did you put a thoughtful plan in place to get the best outcome? And so this is where I call plan, do, check, act. And so in this difference, this would be kind of doing the same old thing and hoping that everybody else kind of does their due diligence and kind of does over and above, I would say. Or would you put a thoughtful plan in place that starts from the very beginning? And that really starts with the owner's commitment to doing something differently. And so this is where that program, quality assurance, and process comes into play. As the owner, I look for a subject matter expert who's probably a little bit smarter in the topic that I'm looking in. In this case, it'd be flooring. That's where I would reach out to you folks at the NFCA. That starts with then really educating our architect, our prime consultant, embedding some of our requirements in the specifications, starting to learn, teach, and mentor the constructors before they start the work, before they do their orders, walk them through our expectations, all the way down to the installers. Because at the end of the day, even if I start well at the owner, but I don't get a subject matter expert, I don't involve the architect, my specifications are weak, that's where it breaks down, and the likelihood of me getting a really good floor install starts to fall apart. Because again, now you're just hoping for the best because you haven't done anything differently. Again, yeah, I know there's some flooring will go well, but in my experience, it's not. Go ahead.
We get tremendous feedback when our quality assurance program, which attempts to do exactly what you just mentioned, bring the construction group together, so everybody's on the same page, understanding the same requirements at the same time, and therefore believing each other when they present their challenges. And when you have those meetings and they're successful, everybody's present, the group can get over incredible obstacles together, but as individuals, you've got no chance of getting over an obstacle that's 2 feet high. It's just that kind of industry, right? So I found those meetings, I've been part of many of those meetings, really great for bringing, pretty fractured group together when you think about it, right?
Yep. And this is probably the area where just call it the first kickoff meeting with all parties, where we, especially for folks who've not necessarily worked in healthcare or necessarily have seen the bad installs, what it means long-term to your community hospital. So I always like to share the stories, or I guess share the pain of what the consequence of us not doing it well. Chris has been in some of these discussions when I've had them, but the fact of trying to say, I don't know, replace a floor in an OR one day. Most of our ORs are open all the time. If we close an OR, we're canceling a slate. If we have to set up infection control hoarding and tear out a floor and put in a new floor, it's extremely invasive. Our infection control requirements are so high that my thought is, if I'm starting to rip up a floor in OR, it's highest level 4. I've got full containment, full negative air. Doctors and physicians and nurses would have to stay away from that unit, potentially closing adjacencies. And so I always like to really start off the project with common understanding of what the impact and how we do our work. We're seeing a lot of new faces in healthcare. I'm sure you're seeing it in a lot of places you guys are going. And so teaching the next generation of why these things are important is our next job, because I always say we have to pay it forward. I've really benefited probably from the last 20 years of serious mentorship from people who've been doing this work for a long time. And when I'm looking around, I'm starting to see all those folks retire, move on, go to their colleges or cottages, do nice things. And the next generation, I'll be honest, I can hardly get their face out of a phone. And so at the end of the day, I could text them maybe, or send them some memes and educate them that way. But I recognize the next generation has some differences on how they're learning or paying attention. So we're going to have to come up with some unique ways to mentor the next generation.
A great point about the phone. I mean,
right?
wow, construction sites are totally different today because of that phone. I mean, imagine in the 80s going to site with your TV under your arm.
Well, and I still give them, I went out to my last big project and I gathered the team together, the trades, and I said, okay, let's work through this issue. And I'm pretty sure the electrician showed up with one phone, the mechanical showed up with another. And I said, no, like, how do I coordinate this? I said, for the love of Murphy, somebody get us a drawing. And so we went over and did old school. But yeah, they look at me like, I'm in the wrong generation. And I didn't think I was that old, but phones first, Chris, phones first, wherever I go.
It's also a little bit double-edged, because I remember running into one guy who was YouTubing how to do the job on the site.
I do say you can learn anything from YouTube, but I'd be nervous if they're learning how to build our healthcare facility on YouTube.
Yes, it's
but
like, show
why
me your
not?
ticket.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? So that's really where I leaned into the flooring program. I'll be honest, I've survived some flooring installs that probably got a little lucky on, I'll be honest. I'm just going to say good luck swung my way. I've had some flooring installs go really wrong. A lot of flooring installs are repairs, I'll say, existing, slab on grade, moisture content high. It's not like we're going to rip out the slab and redo it. So, breadth of experience from really existing not good flooring and just doing repairs to all the way brand new. However, I think the process still exists, that you should use some sort of program or process, and definitely collaboration. So as I said, it starts with owner requirements, being really sure in what you want, understanding the flooring, where it is, what it is, what quality you want. Like I said, is it rubber? Is it sheet goods? Are we trying carpet? And then that partnership. It's really important to start off, whether it's with your FMO, your facilities maintenance operators, or the clinic that you're putting it in, or the space, is to really understand their needs. I would bore you with budgets, but and today it's not a budget discussion. And then the buy-in. to say, okay, if you have a high risk flooring, it might not get the quality you want out of it. Again, those renovations, existing conditions, or is the buy-in like this is a showcase flooring, high-end lobby, making sure you understand that and what the expectation is at the end. What your practice is, and I don't mean practices in like practice your golf swing. I mean, what do you really practice and preach through your process? What you're willing to accept or not accept. It's really important. And then that follow-up is really key. I've seen many people buy in and say, yes, yes, yes. And then they're not attending the meetings. They're not engaging. They're not following the process. So really just staying on top of them. Sometimes they don't understand. So sometimes it's just re-education, I'll be honest, and they would do the right thing. I now really promote NFCA program in all our projects. So that's just my own belief. It started with a few of my colleagues. I'll name drop Wendy Peer and a few others who said this works because we actually don't have another framework to work within. So I'm a huge proponent. I will be utilizing this program in our long-term care builds. They're a huge investment. These projects are $200 million projects. I think construction is about $100 million. Part of that is a donation, community donation in our healthcare facilities is huge. So I'll give you an example. My recent project at one of the bigger hospitals, it was a $90 million project. Almost 50 million of that was donated by the community. And I'm talking mom and pop from $5 here to $100 there, and big vendors and big families donating. And so I really see that as a community asset. So all I can say is if I'm working in your community hospital in your neighborhood, please understand that we see that as your community asset, and we're going to do the best we can to give you back the best healthcare facility we can get you. So it's really important folks understand that although we are health authority staff, we're community partners just like yourselves. And so really that buy-in starts from whoever's leading the project all the way to all people involved. And then all parties participate. This is a newer one for me. Chris saw me explore this in our recent project together, but this is where I require any consultant or builder or partner on the project payroll. So this would be architect all the way through mechanical engineers, testing agencies, you name it. If they walk on site and happen to witness something that would hinder a quality floor install, they have to say it out loud, or they have to put it in their field review. So most recently, one of our projects, we were having, one of the builders was really struggling with infection prevention control during the construction. And what that meant was the site was really contaminated with dust, debris, temperature issues, you name it. I started kind of pointing it out and asking for better participation and correction of the site. Didn't get compliance. So I leaned on all of our key partners to say any person who walked on that site to do a field review must document the condition. And that really started to build that buy-in, that practice, and then all parties participating with us. So what that did was it kind of enforced the builder, the constructor, not to ignore the issue, because every field review, every document, every memo, every owner walkthrough, we documented the inappropriate environmental conditions for the flooring installation. And what that does is it also supports the flooring process. Because I can't imagine if I needed all those voices to help me correct that condition, how on earth would I expect just the flooring installer, the vendor, whatnot, to be heard? Because I think that's the biggest challenge on sites is that we don't give the proper space, we don't give the proper environment, we don't get it heated, we don't get it cooled. And basically then the flooring installers just left there sitting there probably on a weekend or after hours. Working away on their own without any real support. So I do believe that all parties participate will support everybody all the way to the person who's doing the installation or the overseeing, because no longer is it just their voice screaming for help.
So I see quality assurance as a benefit for someone, Sarah, like you in your role. We're able to, from an independent standpoint, empower you with a fact-based understanding of what the flooring needs to go down and stay down, be successful. Without that knowledge that you're assured of is right and factual, it's very difficult for you to push back against your builder and say, no, I need it done this way, when you can't really be expected to know that. So it must be a great resource for you to call the independent inspector and say, can you back me up on this? Is this right or is this wrong? What should I do next? And every QA, we've had lots of QA projects over the years. Every one where the health authority PM is involved and engaged, like you get your hands dirty, you get involved, has gone well. Every one where the project manager disappeared and you couldn't get them, you got voicemail and no return call, disaster.
And I just think that's crazy because it's the best chance you have for resolution. And so
Yeah.
I'm just shocked at when folks don't use that leverage. And so I'd love to, if somebody didn't want, I'd love you to send them my way, just to ask, what are you thinking? What can I say that kind of encourages you to do it differently? And I'll tell you, and we'll talk about it when things go wrong. It's great when it goes right. And sometimes there's a few little whoopsies, but when you have maybe something that's more complex, like I had on my recent project, to have those facts kind of walked through to you to understand the details, because even though I had great reports and some of it I understood, some of it's so detailed when you get into adhesion and this testing and that testing, it can be very complex. And so I'll be honest, I don't know how people navigate that without a subject matter expert. I'll be honest, because even our architect, I'll just say it, the architect was so grateful to see NFCA come along and walk us through, because I think architects are the first ones, or they should say, they're not an expert in everything. And so they also need help. And so if they're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with the owner and ask the builder to do things or not do things or correct things, they have to have facts too.
The construction process relies on the architect and the owner's PM and the constructor to know everything about everything. That's just the nature of the build. And yet, at the same, what they do in order to get over that is to rely on their individual skilled trades who know everything about their trade. And that's the challenge, is to bring all that information and all those trades together in a trusted way, where you trust what is being delivered. The builders out there, they want to deliver a great product. They just want to know if they're going to be told to do or asked to do something that's going to delay possibly the project or cost a lot of money, that they have to do it. And so it makes it a lot easier when they hear it from an independent that says, yes, you do need to do this. Then they're much more motivated to get on with it. And it's kind of like your infection control situation. Difficult to get to do it until everybody was saying, yep, you got to do it. It's true. Yeah.
And then once you're united and everybody kind of understands the resolution, it was interesting to see how quickly that was corrected, but it sure took a while to identify what goes wrong, how it went wrong. And sometimes it's not so much about how, but the fact that we know it's, there's something wrong and to go ahead and fix it. And so I sure felt I've benefited immensely from it. And so of the projects that I've been on. I'd hate to, I was going to touch on a little bit of budgets, but not really. I'll just be honest, the fee or any of the costs I paid for NFCA on any of our projects are so insignificant compared to the level of effort you'd spend without those support systems. I would be spending weeks and weeks, hours on hours of reading, not necessarily understanding what I was reading. And so it's really great to have you folks out there to walk us through that.
Appreciate that.
And then the biggest thing is when things go wrong, because they do. We try our best, and sometimes at the end of the day, I like to say, when things go wrong, don't go with them. Don't follow that that wrong behavior. And so I said, use and follow process. Somebody out there will tell you how to fix it. So in our example, I won't go into the weeds because I'm actually not that expertise at it. Chris and Clayton definitely were. But ultimately we had a failure that we weren't sure why. So one of the first things we did is we pulled a sample, did some testing, sent it to some of the manufacturers. Then we said, you know what, why don't we reach out for more subject matter expertise? Why don't we send that same sample to a third-party lab? And somebody found us one, and let's double check our work. Let's verify. Also, I think maybe the builder, the constructor felt good about that. I think we all feel better when you have a third party, no skin in the game expert kind of help you to determine what's going on. Then we used common sense. We all got together, reviewed those reports, thought about it, heard everybody's position, and really took their thoughts to play again, and we worked as a team. So we systematically said, in this issue, we could have pulled out way more flooring than what was required. We didn't want to create that to an occupied space. It was super busy. So we went through systematically, gave assurances to the health authority, the foundation, and others that the whole flooring system wasn't failing. We watched and observed that flooring system for some time to see if any more issues came up. We had a floor surveillance program. The building was so large that we needed the staff to watch for any anomalies or bumps or bubbles. And so we let that go for a while. Then we got to come back, determine areas that would be replaced. Those since have been repaired. And I want to say, I might be generous, but I think 6 months now we've heard no comments, no concerns, no additional bubbles. And so it went really well. And that's why I say process can really help you when you feel like things are starting to fall apart.
When did those bubbles occur after?
It wasn't right away, which was interesting. So we occupied the big building. So this is a building, medical device reprocessing, a very busy ER and an OR. So these areas had tons of foot traffic, well used. The bubbles didn't show up right away. I want to say
Like a year?
6 months and beyond or something in that area. Then we watched it, made sure like it wasn't going to pop bubbles everywhere else, tested it, made it safe. Eventually the builder came, replaced a bunch of sections, and I haven't heard anything since. So I think it's fair to say, and usually they would tell us right away, especially with a known area, they would report it. And so I'm pleased to say the process worked, the support worked, the subject matter expertise recommendations were trusted and seemed to get us to a resolution. And I think the team handled it well. I'll be honest, I was quite nervous when it first came up, because nobody wants to hand over a big brand new building and say, hey, by the way, your floor's popping bubbles everywhere. So I won't lie, I was quite nervous when it happened, but I had trust in the process. So I just simply said to our leadership and those who had skin in the game, said, give us time. We've got a whole team who's going to work on this with you. We're going to be transparent. We're going to give you access to all the tests, all the reports. If the reports are too scientific-y, we'll walk you through them. And at the end of the day, I felt very supported and backed by facts. I'll just say, instead of a bunch of people's opinions, because that can be scary.
And a construction team, there's several entities involved, all trusting what they're reading simultaneously together, and they're able, that makes pulling the trigger on a repair process a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking, as you can imagine, when you're all proud to hand over this building and everything else shines, and then you get the dreaded phone call of flooring. So I always fret about that, I'll be honest, because I've had a few in my history.
Right at the end, when the finishing line's in sight, how frustrating.
It is, and it's just kind of how it happens to happen, it's just kind of Murphy's Law. And so no, I just wanted to thank you all for sharing your time with me and just kind of open up the dialogue, because I think we hear a lot of these presentations, we hear about this stuff, but I'd love to hear your comments or concerns, or what you're going through in your flooring installations.
Any questions out there, folks? You have to unmute yourself to ask. We had a job recently where the hoist, the elevator outside, was not protected from the elements. So where you went up to like the 5th floor or something like that, and then you start unloading whatever you put in the lift, and there's no plastic stopping the weather from just pouring in. And we could not get the builder to seal it off. Just dug his hands, and unfortunately the PM for the health authority wasn't engaged. They have the leverage, like as a third-party inspection service, we can't stop construction. We can recommend this needs to happen in order to get this to happen, but it's the PM who is working for the health authority that is critical in those circumstances.
And I think just their knowledge. I know a lot of PMs who may have not gone through the full cycle of a project. And so they might, hand over. So they start the project, hand over, move on. And so I find usually ones who've had to go through the full cycle and then see the issue and work the process, learn that lesson and say, let's not do that again. So it's always interesting to see when your aha moment, I call it, comes, and say that, it's got to be a better way of doing it, or, a more supportive way. And even just, it doesn't have to be a brand new build. I've even thought about calling the NFCA just, to get some support on an old flooring renovation. I've brought in the moisture test, I'm not sure what that means. What is the likelihood of this flooring not lasting? And so I will say subject matter experts are for one question or a bunch of questions. I think don't be shy, whether it's something minor or something really major.
Good stuff.
Yeah, just checking in. Are there other health authority, just if anybody wants to share on the line, where are you guys from, and where in the industry are you working? Anybody brave enough to share?
Do we have any other health authority PMs on the call?
Just checking that chat to see. Oh, there's somebody in Quebec City. Nice. And I noticed there was a comment about betadine, and I was curious. I come from, I guess, old school health authority where betadine was always staining our flooring in the ORs. And I was just wondering, is that still a problem? I think Clayton or somebody commented, but I'd be curious if we're still hearing products or if we figured it out, because I haven't heard. Probably VGH, the old ORs used to be really heavily stained, but maybe we've corrected that over time.
Yeah, not my strength, the world of cleaning. Clayton, you had any experience with betadine?
It's always left the yellow rust stains, and again, I think sometimes, Clayton said no. Oh, we've got Kristen, Architects Winnipeg. Oh, nice. Shout out to Winnipeg. We were just out in Manitoba for the chess conference, and so familiar with some of the folks over there.
Why do we see so many well, we see a lot of floors that get damaged by the maintenance people that come in. You transfer this beautiful looking new flooring over to the maintenance people and the wrong pad gets used or something like that. Why does that happen? I mean, obviously it's a miscommunication, but you would have thought that more emphasis would be put on managing that transference much more closely, considering the result.
You'd think, and I can't speak for other provinces, but we're doing the old, contract out, contract in. So for a while now, Chris, I want to say maybe 10 years, 7 years, we've had contracted housekeeping. Most recently, we've just brought it back in. So I found over time that when we used to have housekeeping environmental services in-house, it didn't get as much turnover. So those managers, supervisors knew their site. They knew which new flooring went in. They were at the orientation. I find with the contracted services, we saw immense turnover. So with that goes the education, continuity. And so I think they mean to take care of it. It's just, again, transitioning. I went and put that new flooring in that lobby, and they just showed up on a Saturday and did the same thing they always did, or grabbed the same pads for the equipment they always do. So I find that education, orientation, and follow-up is everything right now with probably every department and every organization across North America these days.
Yeah.
Loss of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then we do try, a lot of people ask, well, how do we get our flooring, in your facility? Again, we are risk adverse. We don't like trying new things. So I usually say, well, who tried that last? Can I talk to them? And so that'll be the first thing you'll hear from folks. That's why you see a lot of the repeats. Also, flooring is very expensive. And I always say we only really get one kick at the can to do it. So we're very nervous to be guinea pigs. Sometimes we'll try, like if somebody wants to bring in a new one, we'll say, oh, we'll try it in like this corner of this area and see how it holds up. So we are open to trying new things. But like I say, I laugh about the carpet in healthcare. We like to try new things, but if it can't be taken care of or maintained, that's, I guess, a big disservice we can do to our community and their assets.
Very good. I know. I heard you put a shout out to Winnipeg, and I just saw Kristen with MMP Architects.
Nice. Call anytime, Kristen, if you need any advice or want to chat healthcare. On my husband, always follow it with a maintenance clinical training. Yeah, we do that, and it's a great idea. Just the ongoing training. I've gone back 6 months, 8 months, all the way through warranty just to retrain them or invite people back. And so that's helped. Videos that they can share, right? Because reading a manual is kind of boring. So we've done some video training. Exactly, right. And what else can I share with you guys? Flooring, really, like I said, our biggest concern is you really only get once to put that beautiful flooring in. I will speak to flooring lines. So those are directional lines in our sheet vinyl goods. And so for a while, if it says, go from emerge to medical imaging, follow the red line as an example. We're terrible in healthcare planning. And so shout out to the architect in Winnipeg. We're always changing departments and moving. So the first thing is, how do we get that line out of the floor and redirect it? So that's one thing. We used to see a lot of lines in healthcare till we started moving and shifting departments consistently. Then we realized, oh, that might have not been a great idea because we have to go back and take all that lines and redo our flooring. So sometimes you'll see them on the side of the walls now, but then we cover it with equipment. So I'll be honest, lines and flooring are quite contentious no matter where you go.
Just to finish my comment about Winnipeg, we're NFCA's quality assurance program is in St. Boniface Hospital in Winnipeg, and that's going well. Construction team working well together there. So, Kristen, if you're a spec in QA or thinking about it in Manitoba, we've got a great inspector out that way.
That's
great. Yeah, any questions?
No.
No?
Looks like we've satisfied the audience.